Sensational.
All right, guys. January 28th, Tuesday morning, Dual Coast podcast. We are live right now with the man himself, Delaney Wallace. I'm going to let my co-host introduce him right here, right now. Russ.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Dual Coast podcast. We're so stoked today to have our friend Delaney Wallace here with us today. Delaney, welcome. And we're stoked about today's conversation. We are we have been waiting for this for months. And I see this guy, I see Delaney pop up on my Instagram probably more than anybody I know. And he's always in the gym, pumping the iron and lifting some weight that I can't even imagine, But, let me tell you a little bit about Delaney, man. I met Delaney back at A to B last year. And super cool dude. And I'm telling you, he gave a great message. And I love the fact that, he's got a stylist, that takes care of his clothes. I love the fact that he is down to earth. He's got a smile that goes from East Coast to West Coast. He is a high-end tax saving specialist. He is a chief financial officer that he sources out, but he is also a two-time world powerlifting champion. And I'll tell you, it is a pleasure for us to have you here today. Delaney, welcome to Dual Coast Podcast.
Yes, sir. Hey, guys. I appreciate you guys having me, man. I'm excited.
Thank you for being on, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for being here. How are things going with you?
Things are going great. 2020, 2025 it's flying right now, and it's kicking off to a good note. My gym opened up maybe a few months ago, and we're already up like 300 members. My accounting, financial planning firm, things are flying. A lot of good collaborations that are happening in the background that I can't talk about yet. But 2025 is going to be one hell of a year. I'm excited.
So, in other words, you don't sit and do nothing.
It's so bad that my friends always joke, if I ever come to like the gym, to a party, to a function, to whatever, and I'm like very calm and I'm sitting around and not doing much, they're actually worried. If I sat around and did nothing, people would actually probably put me on like some type of watch or something, or think I got sedated somehow. So yeah.
That is amazing, man.
That's awesome,
so
man.
You've got irons in the fire. You're making things happen, right? You just
Absolutely.
said you can't share with us a little bit about some of the collaboration. We totally get that. But, the fact that you do what you do with the gym, with working out, with training, tax specialist, CFO, you've got a lot going, and yet you're continuing to expand what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Just tell us right out of the gate, how do you take the time to manage your time to do all of these things?
Yeah. I think so. One thing that we teach a lot, with our outsourced CFO work is having the ability and having the foresight to delegate. So I'm extremely fortunate that almost anything that I do, I don't do alone. Mm-hmm. And it means that I can focus on the things that I'm good at and they actually give me energy, and my partners focus on the things that they're good at and gives them energy, which really helps me a ton. I'll give you the gym for an example. I don't know. There was some IKEA furniture in my kitchen that my sister and my mom always joke with me that I never put anything together and that I just get somebody else to do it. I pay for it. I'm like, I'm going to prove them wrong and that I'm going to do it. And a simple cabinet took me from like 7 o'clock at night to 1 a.m. to put together. I didn't even have a screwdriver in the house. Like it was a mess. And I was like, I'm never going to do it again. But what it taught me was, it's just, I stay in my lane. When I stay in my lane, things go well. When I go outside of my lane, I let my ego get in the way. Things start to fall apart.
Oh my God.
And so whether it be with the gym, whether it be with outsourced CFO work, whether it be with some of the other businesses we're collaborating on with supplements and with nutrition and with all the other things that are happening in the background, media company, etc. I just find good partners. I just find people that like to do the stuff that I absolutely hate. Mm-hmm. I fill in the gaps where I can, and it allows me to, control my time a whole lot better. And one more thing I guess I'll add on to that is just with all of these different things, they all seem disconjointed. Right. But what I found is that the commonality between them is just me. Like I'm the ethos between all of these different things. And it's just an extension of who I am. And so if I keep everything and if I allow everything to come back to center, it allows it to not feel as disjointed. You know, like growing up, I did football, I did basketball, I did lacrosse. I also did Boy Scouts. I also was in the theater. I also was like a part of musicals and all of that stuff. And it was just all a part of me. And so I'm used to kind of being multifaceted. And I don't think I could be one dimensional even if I tried.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing. Yeah. And before Dan fires off with a question, I shared with him just recently, I'm reading this book right now called Who Not How by Dan Sullivan.
Yeah.
And, you know, everything that you just said right now aligns with this book, because we as individuals all have lids that are, you know, that we ourselves can only take it so high. Yeah. But when we connect with other people in our lives, right? People, you know, like you said, you know, with building the IKEA furniture, man, I'm just going to let somebody do it because they know what they're doing, right? Yeah. So you're allowing other people to come into your life, into your business, into your world, into your collaborations to take Delaney Wallace to a whole nother level that you alone could not imagine. You couldn't succeed yourself. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go fast by yourself, go far with others, right? That's the old saying.
I love it. Well, I like that. I like that a lot. That fits the profile very well, Russ, for what we were just discussing before with that book. That's very, very true.
Yeah, you're going to have to text it to me later so I can remember to read it.
We can do that.
One.
We can definitely
it's a great read. It's a great read, and highly, you know, I put it out there for other people, you know, who, not how. It's great. If you're wanting to elevate your game to another world, it's about collaborating with others who can come along and, you know, elevate your game. And you're being elevated, you know, in ways that you probably thought, you know, were not imaginable. And the thing about it is, even in my world, at a level that I'm at, just in the last year, I've now noticed these things. They've been happening, but I haven't recognized them as such, like Dan has explained. Right. But, you know, it's just, it's been good. And I can't wait to, you know, finish the read. So highly recommend it.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. That's awesome. So Delaney, so a lot of times we focus here on like motivation and self-discipline and stuff like that. And just tracing back real quick to what you said, being multifaceted, it takes a lot of drive to do stuff like that. A lot of motivation in order to work in all those fields and do everything and stuff like that. So we try to give people advice a little bit about what they would do in order to take that first step to get themselves into a motivated standpoint, maybe into the gym, maybe into whatever it may be, mental assets, physical assets, stuff like that. What advice would you give to someone struggling with self-discipline and consistency? What would you say to somebody who's struggling with those two things?
Self-discipline and consistency, or getting started?
Or getting started, either way.
So I'll start with the easy one first, which is getting started. And my advice is just to get started. I'm just a big believer of baptism by fire. And so I'll use an example. Pretty regularly now when someone new comes into my gym, or when I'm visiting for work and I'm in somebody else's gym, like, you know, a younger kid will notice me from the world championship or something like that. Sure. And they'll always ask like, hey, like, what do I do to get here? Like, I haven't done my first meet yet, and I'm trying to wait until I get to this level before I start, and And I always give them the same example. It's like back in 2017, I think it's 2017, back in 2017, when I started powerlifting, I walked into this little mom and pop, you know, 4,000 square foot gym. The trainer that I was working with, you know, I was just trying to get in shape, was like, hey, you'd be good at powerlifting. I was like, all right, why not? And 2.5 months later, I was competing in my first competition. Right. Oh. And I say that to say, because if I hadn't have just taken that leap and just gotten started, I would have never learned the things that I learned along the way as quickly as I learned them. There's certain things that you can only learn once you're in the heat of battle, and then you can take that to the next step. And so, like, for the person that's always waiting until I'm gonna wait till Monday to start going to the gym and get in shape, because Monday's that kind of like start of the week. I'm gonna wait till New Year's because I'm gonna wait till this happens. I'm gonna wait till after the vacation. I'm gonna wait till after, for a business, for whatever. All you're doing is delaying your ability to reach the goal that you actually want to reach. And I just find that baptism by fire and just figuring it out as you go. Like I'm very much so, like, I just say yes and figure it out as I go. Yeah. It works for me, right? There's some planning, right? I'm not just saying like you go, you know, skydiving and don't do any type of research, but just getting started got me so much farther than others that have just been planning. Right.
Yeah.
So that's the first piece. In terms of discipline, I had this like saying back in like 2022, getting ready for like the first world championship in South Africa, that I always told myself, and I said, it goes, every day I recommit to my commitments. Right. And what that was for me, it was a reminder to not break things up into a 6 month, 1 year, 2 month, 5 year plan or strategy, but to think of everything in the terms of one day at a time.
Sure.
Right. And so if I can just find a list of 3 things, don't make it super complicated, because I think our brain really only functions in threes anyway, right? Like psychologically. But if you find a goal that you have and you break it down into 3 daily functions, and you just say, before I go to bed, these functions must be done, and you just do it every single day, you might not end up where you want to be. You might actually end up farther, but you'll be damn sure farther than you would have if you were up, down, up, down, up, down. And so I think that's one thing that, whether it be business or whether it be like powerlifting or whatever, is like, I do believe that more than most, I have the ability to just say, I'm going to do these small incremental things well, again and again and again and again and again. And I put a little of my ego into there as well. And I just say, because I know that most people can't do it. They don't have the mental fortitude to do it. And so that drives me in those days that when I don't want to do it, I'm like, well, I got to compete against Dan in 3 months, and I know he's not going to do it. I know he's not going to get to bed in time because he's got 2 kids and he's going to go and he's got to take care of that. Oh, the wife wants to go out too. So I'm going to use all of those factors of other things that he wants to do against him. I'm going to sacrifice now because it's going to give me the end result that I have. Like, and I talk to myself every single day.
So you create a mental drive out of that.
A mental drive out of that. I'm super, super hyper competitive. Yeah. And so I'm just like, well, if I don't want to do it, that means my competitor doesn't want to do it. But the difference between me and my competitor is I don't care what the cost is. I'm just gonna pay my dues every day, and it works out in my favor more often than I can count. And sometimes doors open that I wouldn't even have imagined are even available.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
That's so good.
That's great.
That's so good, Delaney. I appreciate you saying, what you said. And I think discipline is really what people need to hear, right? Yeah. It's discipline of doing it every day. I always hear, get 1% better every day. Like you just want to keep moving forward in any way that you possibly can. When I think about like some of the things that you just stated right now, I think about, mental toughness, right? And you've got to be, as an athlete, you have to be mentally tough. And I would love for you to share maybe some strategies that you have employed in your life that would be beneficial for other people right now, whether they're, working towards, becoming a bodybuilder, or whether they're, desiring to just be a better person, a better husband, a better wife, or, whatever it is, or a better CEO, whatever it is. What is it right now that when it comes to mental toughness that you could help people with maybe, 1 to 3, strategies that you have employed in your life?
I'm going to name the one.
Okay.
That I think just kind of dovetails into everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody has my exact story, right? And you've heard some of it in terms of like what happened when I was a child. And so those are memories that I go back to. But the core of the thought of it is there are moments in every single person's life, right? Life is hard, right? Life can be hard. There's a moment in each and every one of our lives where we thought that we weren't going to make it physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, whatever, and we're still here. Therefore, if that event that was so catastrophic at the time didn't break you, didn't kill you, didn't, put you 6 feet under, then you have the fortitude to accomplish this next task, right? And so I always look at it and, whatever it is I'm going through at this moment, is it worse than the worst thing that I've ever experienced in my life up until this point? 99% of the time it's not, right? And then the 1% of the time that it is, I say all of these little microscopic events that felt terrible at the time, down to like the first heartbreak in middle school, like, right, that felt catastrophic at the time, has prepared me and was a learning lesson for me to be prepared for this big, the big gun here. There's this, I'm not a big anime watcher just because I don't have the time to, because I'm always doing stuff. But it seems pretty cool. But I did get a chance to, a friend of mine, Nina and Kaiko. He's also like a multi-time world champion in the 93 kilo weight class for America. They recommended this show called Blue Lock. And essentially it was about these soccer players or football players that were trying to essentially train to be the best in all of Japan, I think it was. Right. Mm-hmm. And this one, the main character, he had the ability to essentially learn and absorb the abilities of each and every person that he faced. So like everybody had like some type of like superpower, in the form of, soccer. And his superpower was to be able to take events that have already happened, repurpose them, learn from them, and then essentially absorb the power that one person had and use it against them. Mm-hmm. And so it's so funny because I watched it maybe 6 months ago, but I feel like I've been doing it my entire life. I take events that either have happened to me or I've seen other people go through, and it's almost like this little file that I take. And then once I'm pinned up against the wall and I have this catastrophic event that feels too tough for me to handle, I start pulling from all of these different memories and repurposing like puzzle pieces to give me the weapon of choice that I need in order to get through it. And it's so funny. It turns stressful events into this like game. Like, am I smart enough? Am I cunning enough? Can I pull enough data from my life to repurpose it to do something that's never done before? But somehow I've had all of this information, this knowledge the entire way. And again, I'm super competitive. So for me, everything comes down to competition. And so I'm like, am I smart enough to do that? Of course I am. Like, who else could be able to do it? Like, God gave it to me because I'm the only one that can figure this puzzle piece out. And I'd say that's the biggest thing for me that's allowed me to go through tough times, get through moments where I didn't think I was going to make it. It's just like there's been a moment in my life that I thought was worse and probably was worse that I got through. Therefore, I can get through this. And if it is actually worse, then all of these different incremental things that I've experienced along my life have prepared me for this moment. Now, this is just the final test that God's given me to now move on to the next chapter of my life and get to that next phase. And so that would be kind of my one and big thing that I always go back to. I keep it pretty simple. So usually it's just like, one or two things.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. That's amazing. Yeah, you kind of just touched on this a little bit, Delaney, but what would you say, what role does visualization have in your preparation for either competition or anything like that? I know you just kind of touched on it, but in order to develop all that like mental fortitude, you probably have some sort of visualization before you go on stage to lift or before you do something of that nature in the gym or something like that. As far as visualization, do you utilize any specific factors or keys that you like to use? I know you probably develop a lot of like mental fortitude from this, like you said.
So I'd say one would be rituals. Mm-hmm. So anybody that knows me from powerlifting, I'm known as the guy that always has like the pre-squat, bench, and like deadlift, like dance that I do beforehand. And I'm always doing crazy stuff. And so it's funny because powerlifting is a big social media sport. Right?
Sure. Okay.
And so a lot of times people do things solely for the attention or the click or the views of like a media page or something like that.
Right.
And at the beginning of my career, a lot of people just thought I was doing weird stuff just to be like different and like put on a show of things. But what it really came down to for me was that I think it's called like Pavlov's dog like experiment, where you ring a bell, you give a dog food, you ring a bell, you give a dog food, you ring a bell, give a dog food, and you do it enough. At some point in time, when you ring the bell, the dog's going to salivate, even if there's no food available.
Right.
And so essentially those like pre-rituals to each attempt or to each lift was my way of training my body of saying, every time I do this, this is the output that I need from you, regardless of where my mental is at. This is just the natural course of how everything is supposed to go. And I think it's helped me a lot, right? Bad day at work, bad day with significant other.
Yeah.
Kids are on your nerves, got into a car accident, somebody cut you off on the road. Like there's 1,000 different things. Like I'm hungry today. My shirt got stained. Like there's so many little things that happen on a day-to-day basis that could throw you mentally off. I take work calls or text messages or emails while I'm lifting, right? Because I can't turn it off. It's just how my brain works. So sometimes if I don't have the mental fortitude to just shut the phone off and or whatever the case may be, but sometimes if there's an important meeting or something important that needs to get done and my mental comes focuses off away from lifting while I'm in the gym, those little cues are an easy way for me to just snap right back into it. Because it's like, hey, every time you do this, boom, it's time to squat. Every time you do this, it's time to lift something. Every time you do this, it's time to deadlift. And so it just trained me mentally and just like subconsciously a ton. And I think that's helped a lot because I get very focused very quickly. Like you can watch me go from jumping around, being happy, goofing off to dead serious. And you're like, I think this guy probably has split personality disorder or something. And it's just because I've trained myself so well to do that. So I'd say like a pre-ritual that I just do religiously helps a ton because there's so many other variables outside of you that you can't control. How about just control as much as you can, like internally?
Sure.
And then I would just say there's no special visualization technique. It's not like I meditate. My brain moves too fast to meditate. I wouldn't be calm at all. Like it freaked me out. But it's like almost every event almost every big event that's happened in my life, I've visualized in some way, shape, or form, just like subconsciously. Like I think about it now. Like I have nationals coming up in Atlanta, Georgia on April 4th. And I'm thinking about this now. Like my passcodes to my phone have something to do with, something that I'm trying to accomplish or do. Like I just think about it all the time to the point that it's just obsessive. And so that visualization kind of comes in some way, shape, or form of almost every single minute, hour of every day.
Yeah.
Again, because I'm kind of extreme. I do things all out or not at all. And people could attest to that. They'd be like, you're super driven in here and you don't do anything here. It's like, I don't like this. I just don't do it. Right. It's either all or nothing. I can't live in the middle. And I just think about it every single day. And so visualization, no, unfortunately, I don't have like a special visualization technique. I literally just think about it every day because I can't not do so.
And you tie it into like aspects of daily life also. It's like in your phone, it's always in your face or something like that. So you could always utilize that mental aspect of things because you're always seeing it. So you could visualize from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so good, man.
That's awesome.
So good. One of the things I think about is I go back to my college career and I go back to my college baseball coach. John Scalinas was the winningest baseball coach. And he was this old Italian fiery guy down at Cal Poly Pomona. I mean, we couldn't have, we're like the Yankees. We couldn't have any facial hair, none whatsoever. We couldn't. In fact, one time, because I can grow a beard pretty quick. I bet Dan can too. But so one time I decided, you know what? I told my roommates who were on the baseball team. I said, I'm going to not shave my face, and let's see how long I can go because they want you clean. I made it 2 days, and that was it. And the assistant coach said, "Go home and shave, and don't come back to practice tomorrow without shaving." So, but my college baseball coach, John, he said this. He said the 5 most important words in life are surround yourself with good people.
Mm-hmm.
And I am certain by what I'm hearing today and on our prior conversation last year that you have done that, whether it's consciously or subconsciously in your life. But thinking about surrounding yourself with good people, how has the people around you elevated you in your game, in daily life, in daily living? How have they helped you? Because we all need people in our life to connect with that are going to support us through difficult times, that are going to be there in our happiest times and celebrate with us, right? And how has that all played into your life to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of my close friends are great, magnificent people. And those are the people that, you choose to hang out with. But I think I just won the lottery in the sense of just like my immediate family, my mom, my dad, my little sister. They're just like, they are the most spectacular people that you can even imagine, my mom, super sweet, like the one that just says, "Hey, baby, no matter what you're doing, like you're the best in the world. Like just like you can do no wrong, right?"
Yep.
But then you have my dad on the other end. It's like, yep, you're doing great, but you can be better, right?
Yes.
And then my sister, I mean, I tell everybody this all the time. She's more hardworking than I am. Like I'm the lazy one in the family. Like she's just a dog. She gets after it day in and day out. She's been like that since she was little. I remember her waking me up in the middle of the night. I was in like 7th, 8th grade, I'm sorry. She was in like seventh, eighth grade. I was in high school, and she woke me up in the middle of the night crying hysterical tears because she had a dream that she forgot to do her homework. Like, that's how like hardworking she is. And not like a big homework assignment, like one of those ones that's like, oh, this is worth like half a percentage point of your grade. And I'm sitting here and I'm just like, Sierra, like, I haven't done the last 10 homework assignments that they give me. Like, I'm sleeping like a baby. Like, why are you bothering me, right? But when you're around those type of people, my dad was an engineer, my mom was in biology. Like when you're around those type of people day in and day out, it does definitely shape you and form you. And so I mean, I've been so extremely fortunate and blessed to just have the best family that I could even imagine or ask for. So much so, I'll give you one more story just to give you context.
Yeah.
When you're trying to pursue something great, whether it be athletically, professionally, emotionally, spiritually, it takes all of you. Like it takes all of you to be great, right? Like the Kobe mentality, Mamba mentality, the whole 9 yards. And it's difficult for the people around you, whether it be loved ones, family members, mom, dad, sister, husband, wife, whoever, to accept that, especially if your dream isn't necessarily their dream as well, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people get caught up with family that are just like, hey, why are you working on a holiday? Like, just spend time with family and put it down. Why are you going to the gym or working out on a holiday? It's Thanksgiving, figure it out later. Blah, 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 blah. Like, there's this concert that's, we want to go to, shift this around and miss a couple of days so you can do this. And my family is the exact opposite of that. I think also part of it is on me. Like, they see how hard I work. And so when you put forth the effort, you're rewarded with people's respect the path that you're on. But I was visiting my little sister in St. Louis. She's getting her doctorate out there. And for Christmas is the one year that we flew out from New York and New Jersey to go down. So my mom, my dad, myself, we flew down. And a week and a half before we flew down, my sister called me and she said, "Hey, Delaney, I know you guys are coming down for Christmas this year. I made a list of all of the top powerlifting gyms in the St. Louis area and checked out the equipment that they had. These are the best 3 that I found, and you can choose which one is best, because I know that you have to train for your competition in Sheffield, UK in a couple of months. Wow. And we need to make sure that you're ready."
Wow.
And so a family Christmas trip was dictated and surrounded around, at some point in time in the day, we need to get Delaney to one of these gyms so he can train and finish the drill. Right. Wow. And God willing, and God blessed us. And I think that that's a huge piece and the reason why a couple months after that, I was able to come home. I was able to go over to Sheffield, UK, and end up breaking the 83 kilo world record after missing it the year before. And it's just that family dynamic. I mean, like, how many family, like, Christmas holiday for a week in another state, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to do all this fun stuff, but your training schedule is going to get blocked in first, and then the gifts, and then the Blu-rays game, and then this, and then all this other stuff will then come after." And so I can say, to your point of just surrounding yourself with good people, I got extremely lucky that I just won the lottery, because your family's the closest people to you, and that's who you probably interact with the most in your entire life. So it wasn't something that I chose, that I was born into, and I couldn't be more grateful for it. And because of that, I know what it's like to have good people around me. And so I don't choose to be around those poor people that bring you down, because it's so foreign to me. I don't understand it. Yeah. Right. Like, I'm like, as 30 years old now, and my sister always tells me I'm still really naive, because I don't understand certain things, because I just use my family, my mom, my dad, my sister, the immediate people that I've seen, as that North Star of what things should be. And I don't understand that, like, maybe people didn't have that same experience growing up. And so it's very hard for me. And therefore, like, I separate myself from those type of environments more quickly than most. We all walk in, step in shit sometimes, right? But more often than not, I get in and out of very bad situations, relationships, friendships, whatever, very quickly, whether it be me just pushing them away and saying, "Hey, this isn't for me," or whether it just be my presence in the way that I carry myself, and I decide that things need to be done. kind of phases them out because it makes them uncomfortable. Very long-winded way of answering the question, but hopefully
No, that's good.
that gave you the
That's
answer,
great.
man.
That
You know,
ties back
I don't
in,
know if
yeah.
I don't know if you hear this, Dan, but I think Delaney's sister has got to be on our show about, you know, just being an amazing human being. I mean, how many
Exactly.
of us, right, can
Absolutely.
elevate our own selves by just learning how to be better? Right?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
what a family you have.
And that ties right back into our who not how conversation that we had before. You know, Delaney, the way your family brings you up and everything like that, supports you and everything. They look at all your goals, you know, they bring you in, they tie all the stuff in. That brings it back into the who not how conversation about how other people can around you can elevate you to that next degree.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree. Delaney, so, you know, you work and you do a multitude of things between weightlifting, taxes, speaking, everything like that. What would you say is the legacy you hope to leave, either being as an athlete or a speaker or whatever it is? What legacy do you want to leave on the public or the people?
Yeah. I think
That's a deep question. I know.
no, I've been asked this question a couple of times, and so I can actually give a pretty short response relative to some of the other ones that I've given. In terms of my legacy, when people look back on me and they think about what I've done, what I've accomplished, who I was, one, I want them to say, dang, that man Delaney was just a good person. Right? Might not have agreed with them on everything, might not like this, but he's just a good, honest person. That's one. But then two, when people look at me, I want them to feel motivated that they can do it all. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that going back to it, and I've just grown up this way, so I kind of don't know anything else. Like my mom and dad had me in theater. I did horseback riding. I was in Boy Scouts. I was the captain of the football team. I played lacrosse. I did soccer. I played baseball for a little bit. I've played the flute. I played the saxophone. I did all these different things. I did things, and I hung out with so many different people that had different walks of life and ways and mannerisms that it just kind of bleeds into my adult life and doing all of these different things, but the ethos is just this is just who I am.
Yes.
And so I genuinely believe that most people in their lives miss out on their own form of greatness because they're too afraid to do something different or do something else, because they think they can only be a dad. They can only be a mom. They can only be a football player. They can only be a powerlifter. They can only be a finance business person. They can only be an architect. They can only be a barista. And I just want them to look at me and just be like, dang, this man Delaney is a 2-time world champion in powerlifting, but he also is doing his thing in finance. He also works with taxes. He also ran multiple businesses, invested in real estate. He also did this. He also sang. He was also a good father when the day finally comes. He was a good I want them to look and just be like, what couldn't he do? Literally, what couldn't he do?
Yeah.
And not from a sense of
Yes.
oh, Delaney's so great and I have some type of superiority over somebody. It's because I genuinely believe that nobody is born special. Like you and I, nobody on this call is inherently special.
Right.
And so if I can do it, or if you can do something, or if somebody else can do something, it means that by default, if you believe that nobody is special and it's not just a God-given talent that only this person can do, then you have the ability to do it as well. Right. And so that's always been my mentality about virtually anything. I see greatness in other people, and Michael Jordan's, the LeBrons, all those guys. And I'm just they weren't special. They worked undeniably hard. And so if I put forth the same amount of effort, or maybe a little bit more, right, sure, I can get there as well. It's just a matter of, do I want it? And most people don't want it. And so my legacy that I want to leave is just that if you actually want something, then you have the ability to do it. Now you just have to choose to do so, and just give people that excuse or that reason to do more and to be more. That I think those are the two things I want to be remembered for. That's kind of my legacy piece of things.
Wow.
That's awesome, man. Beautiful. Awesome. Beautifully stated.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, because, and especially, from what I'm hearing with you, Delaney, and I think in life, we put so much time and energy in the process that we don't take time to celebrate our victories. And it's important that we celebrate our victories, right? So can you identify with that? And is there something that you celebrated, that you accomplished, that you took the time for, and would love to share with everybody that's listening?
That's one thing I don't do very well at all.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. So we're talking about powerlift. I'll give you an example because it's easy to talk about. In 2022, I went to my first world championship, right, in South Africa. I won, right, best in the world for that year. At the won, came home a world champion. I was in the back room in hysterical tears, crying, not because I was happy that I won, but because I was so disappointed in how poorly I performed to my standard.
Wow.
And I thought about that all the way until, say, February of 2023, where I went to this competition called Sheffield, which is essentially the culmination of all of the people that won the world championship last year in different weight classes. And essentially, instead of competing against weight classes, you compete pound for pound to who's the strongest man or woman in the world, right? Thought about that the entire time. Got to Sheffield, came inches away from breaking the world record. So significant jump in my total. I missed the world record. And all I could think about was I didn't finish the drill.
Wow.
I fast forward to June of that year. I go to the World Championship 2023 again in Malta.
Yeah.
I win again. Don't perform as well as in terms of breaking the world record again. And all I can think of is, damn, I didn't break the world record. Woe is me. I just came home a 2-time world champion, but all I could think about was the one thing I didn't do. Right. Fast forward again to 2024. The Sheffield happens again, battle of the world champions. I break the world record. But I know that there are some other people across the country that are coming to try to get their spot at to the world championship.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that I pushed it high enough, which ended up being true. So I might not have been. So I didn't go to the world championship last year. And all I could think about in that moment was I didn't break the world record by enough. Right? And so I say all that to say it's like my the benefit to having like the kind of that duality of my parents, where my mom's like, everything you do is perfect, you're great, and my dad's like, no matter what you did, there's always more to be done. That there's I expect myself to do it, you know. And so when I broke the world record, it wasn't oh my God, I did it. Like nobody's ever done this before. Like it didn't even sink in at the time. Like nobody's ever broken this before because this is the highest that's ever been done. And it's like, I expected it. Therefore, it was nothing to celebrate. This was just a formality of the work that I put in. Right.
Right.
And then have my dad in my ear, right, subconsciously saying, there's more that you can do. And so I immediately just move forward. And so one thing that I have been trying to work on is just like sitting back and reflecting and saying, like, I've come a pretty damn far way. There are moments in my life where I dream to be where I am right now and kind of like soak that in. And usually it's around my birthday. Ironically enough, like I just use my birthday as a reflection period, like a really deep one. And I just look back and at like different moments where I'm just like, yo, I didn't think I was going to make it. Or I thought this was going to fall apart. Or man, like I thought I was going to be homeless on the street. Or da. And like all this worked out. And like I just kind of like reverse engineer all the little things that happened that I may have thought were bad at the time or like held me back, that were actually the thing that guided me to the exact spot that I needed to be to then take that big next step. And again, also my sister, in her infinite wisdom, but also I think it might have just also been timing. So whatchamacallit, traumatic events tend to like make people reflect even more. And so, you know, a few months ago, September 5th of last year, my dad passed away unexpectedly of a heart attack, right? And so that gets you all like reflecting and all of that. And so maybe like a month or two later, my little sister just calls me randomly. And she just sat down. She's like, I was just thinking the other day, I know that you were bummed about like not going to the world championship this year, but I mean, you've won 2 world championships with only one other person has ever done. You broke the world record. You did. And she just listed all these different things. She's like, I was just randomly thinking about it. And she's just like, I just want you to know, if you do nothing else up until this point, like you've done like a spectacular job, and you've done more than like 99% of the world's ever been able to do. And so that was like a impromptu kind of reflection point. I don't know what made her think of it. I'm sure, you know, like I said, like it just makes you reflect about everything. And I think about her, my mom, like everybody, memories and all that. And she called me. And so that was kind of another kind of just like, you know, pat on the back saying, hey, like it's okay to reflect. There's still work to be done, but it's okay to acknowledge that, hey, we have come a pretty long way. So very long-winded way of saying that's something I don't do very well, but I'm working on it. But I do understand the power of doing so and acknowledging. But yeah, I'll leave it there.
So beautiful. So beautiful. I mean, just what you said about your family. You know, I'm sorry to hear about your father, but you know, my father passed in 2020, a couple of months after Kobe's helicopter went down, and so you know and then you got going on there, so it's like crazy, you know. But you know, when you reflect back, you know, when I think about my father, you know, it puts a smile on my face because I think about all of the amazing times, right? And you have your mother, you have your sister, and they're just speaking into your life, and you have that support, you know, for what you need. And we're going to land this plane, and I would like for you to share in closing, Delaney, just a nugget, something that people today need to hear. Just whatever comes to your mind right now. What is a nugget that people can take and apply to their lives right here, right now?
There's a quote that I always tell myself that, like, again, that day-to-day action that needs to get done that always helps me like stay focused. It goes, to each of us comes a special moment in our lives where we are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered a chance to do a special thing, unique to only us and fitted directly to our talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds us unprepared or ill-qualified for that of which could have been our finest hour. And that's just my reminder to myself and to anybody that's listening that your finest hour is hidden behind the work that you're procrastinating on, the things that you're too scared to do, the conversations you're too afraid to have. And so what if that hard thing that you're procrastinating on, or that conversation that you're shying away from, or those day-to-day actions that you're pushing off for later, is simply the final tool that you need to be prepared for what could be your finest hour, and you simply miss it because you're too lazy, too scared, too worried about what other people would think to take forth and put forth the effort. And so I'd say that's probably the quote that I would share, and the thing that I think about the most on a day-to-day basis.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's an amazing quote.
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome.
Man, we have had an amazing time with you.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Absolutely. I appreciate
I'll
it.
speak for Dan for just a moment, you know, that you know, that this thing kind of just turned and went into really diving into some personal things, which is beautiful because, you know, as we stated before, it's conversation, right? And it's conversation, but you know, the most important thing we can do is to help other people, right?
Absolutely.
Help them, whether it's our experiences, whether good or bad, or what we learn from that.
Right.
And you're doing it, man. You're doing it. And I applaud your accomplishments. But I applaud you as a human being.
Absolutely.
And that is the most important thing. And I applaud you, Delaney, today for that.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Delaney, thank you so much for being on with us. Really appreciate it, man. Russ, just, you know, couldn't have said it better right there. Guys, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Dual Coast Podcast. We're on all social media handles. Please follow Delaney Wallace on Instagram. Delaney, what's your Instagram?
Delaney Wallace. Delaney Wallace. So DLANEY WALLACE.
Yep.
Pretty simple.
Yep. Guys, please follow Delaney. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify. And Russ will close it out. Delaney, we like to have a statement that we close out every show with, and it's wellness is not about perfection, but progress. What do you think about that?
I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much for being with us, man.
Thanks, Delaney.
Appreciate y'all having me.
Appreciate your time, man.
Take care.